Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, looking over at your bed, and seeing two glowing eyes staring at you from the darkness. Your cat isn't moving, isn't blinking, just watching you with an intensity that feels almost unsettling. For many of us, our cats are our family, our furry children, and we would do anything to ensure they live a peaceful, happy life. But what if the very environment you've built for them is secretly causing them deep, psychological distress? The terrifying truth about felines is that they are masters of hiding their trauma. Unlike dogs, who will whine, bark, or visibly act out when they are unhappy, a traumatized cat often withdraws into a quiet, invisible suffering. Feline behaviorists and veterinary scientists have spent decades studying the intricate, fragile nature of the feline brain, and their findings are a stark wake-up call for pet parents worldwide. Cats process stress, fear, and routine disruptions in ways that look nothing like human or canine emotions. Because they are both predators and prey in the wild, their brains are hardwired to mask any vulnerability, meaning that by the time you actually notice something is wrong, their psychological distress has likely been brewing for months, if not years. Many well-meaning owners are completely unaware that everyday household habits, standard training methods, and even simple interactions are actively damaging their cat's mental well-being. By diving deep into feline psychology, we can uncover the exact daily habits that are accidentally traumatizing your cat's brain, and more importantly, how you can stop doing them before the damage becomes irreversible. To truly understand how easily a cat's brain can be traumatized, we first have to look at how they perceive the concept of discipline. One of the most widespread and deeply damaging habits in the pet-owning world is the use of physical punishment or startling deterrence, such as shouting, clapping loudly, or using a water spray bottle. When a cat scratches the sofa, jumps on the kitchen counter, or knocks over a glass, the human brain views this as a behavioral problem that needs correcting. However, according to feline behavioral science, a cat's brain is entirely incapable of connecting a delayed punishment or even an active scare tactics with their own natural behaviors. When you spray your cat with water or yell at them, they do not think, "I shouldn't scratch the couch." Instead, their highly sensitive nervous system registers a sudden, terrifying threat coming directly from the person they are supposed to trust most. This triggers a massive spike in cortisol and adrenaline, throwing their brain into a chronic state of fight or flight. Over time, this constant, unpredictable threat destroys the bond of trust between you and your pet, replacing their sense of security with a pervasive anxiety that can manifest as chronic hiding, sudden aggression, or severe litter box avoidance. Moving on to another deeply ingrained habit that wreaks havoc on a cat's psychological stability, we must address the issue of forced affection and the violation of physical boundaries. Because cats are small and incredibly soft, our natural human instinct is to pick them up, squeeze them, and shower them with love whenever we feel like it. However, feline psychology reveals that control is the absolute baseline of a cat's mental health. In the wild, a cat that loses control of its physical body or its immediate environment is a dead cat. When you pick up a cat against its will, trap it in your arms, or force it to endure petting when its body language is screaming for space, you are actively simulating the experience of being captured by a predator. Subtle signs of distress like a twitching tail, ears rotating backward, a tensing body, or skin rippling along their back are often completely ignored by well-meaning owners. When these boundaries are repeatedly violated, the cat's brain begins to view human interaction not as a source of comfort, but as an unpredictable trapping mechanism. This leads to a psychological phenomenon known as learned helplessness, where the cat completely shuts down, or conversely, it can cause sudden, seemingly unprovoked biting and scratching incidents born out of sheer defensive terror. Another surprising habit that slowly chips away at a cat's mental well-being involves the invisible sensory overload we subject them to every single day. We must remember that a cat's senses are vastly superior to ours. Their hearing is fine-tuned to detect the high-pitched squeaks of rodents, and their sense of smell is roughly 14 times stronger than a human's. When we bring heavily scented items into our homes, such as scented candles, essential oil diffusers, plug-in air fresheners, or highly fragrant cleaning products, we are effectively subjecting our cats to a non-stop, inescapable sensory assault. Imagine being trapped in a small room with an incredibly loud, screeching alarm that never turns off. That is exactly what a heavily perfumed house feels like to a cat's brain. This constant olfactory overload creates a state of chronic sensory stress, which directly impacts the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear and anxiety. This stress often manifests in behaviors that owners find baffling, such as urinating on clean laundry, bedding, or near doorways. The cat isn't doing this out of spite. They are desperately trying to overlay the overwhelming artificial scents with their own natural pheromones in a frantic attempt to make their environment feel safe and familiar again. Beyond the invisible world of scents, the way we manage our home's physical layout can also lead to severe emotional trauma, particularly when it comes to the placement of essential resources. Feline behaviorists frequently point out that the positioning of litter boxes, food bowls, and water dishes can make or break a cat's psychological health. In many households, these items are tucked away in dark basements, cramped closets, or placed right next to loud appliances like washing machines and furnaces. For a cat, eating, drinking, and eliminating are the moments when they are most vulnerable to ambush. If a cat is forced to use a litter box trapped in a dead-end corner where they cannot see approaching threats, or if a loud appliance suddenly violently shakes while they are using the restroom, their brain associates that vital location with a near-death experience. This creates an intense psychological conflict. The cat is forced to choose between satisfying a basic biological need and avoiding a terrifying trap. This anxiety frequently leads to idiopathic cystitis, a painful bladder condition in cats that is directly triggered by psychological stress, as well as chronic withholding of urine and feces, which causes severe physical illness. Transitioning to a less obvious but equally devastating psychological trigger, we have to look at the silent trauma of environmental monotony and boredom. Many indoor cat owners believe that by keeping their felines safe inside, they are providing a perfect life. While indoor cats are certainly safer from cars and predators, a completely sterile indoor environment with no mental stimulation is an absolute prison for a predatory mind. A cat's brain is biologically wired to hunt, stalk, pounce, and solve complex physical puzzles to survive. When a cat is left alone for 8 to 10 hours a day in an empty house with no view of the outside world, no interactive toys, and no outlet for their predatory drive, their brain begins to atrophy from lack of stimulation. This chronic boredom eventually mutates into deep frustration and severe depression. The unspent energy bounces around inside their nervous system, leading to compulsive behaviors like overgrooming, until they have bald patches, chewing on cords, or developing obsessive-compulsive packing. They are quite literally losing their minds because their environment gives them absolutely nothing to process or interact with. In addition to environmental stagnation, the way we handle changes in household routine can inflict deep psychological wounds on our feline companions. Cats are extreme creatures of habit. Their entire sense of safety is anchored to predictability. They map out their days down to the minute, knowing exactly when the sun hits a certain spot on the rug, when their owner leaves, and when they return. When we suddenly shift our schedules, move furniture around, bring home new furniture, or host loud, chaotic social gatherings without preparing them, we completely shatter their predictable reality. To a human, a new sofa is an exciting upgrade. To a cat, a new sofa is a giant, unfamiliar object that smells strange and occupies a space where their old scent markers used to be, representing a potential threat to their territory. When these changes happen abruptly and without a safe zone for the cat to retreat to, Their brain interprets the home as an unstable, hostile environment, leading to a profound sense of helplessness and chronic anxiety. But that's not all, because a highly toxic habit that many owners fall into involves the mismanagement of multi-cat dynamics and the forced sharing of limited resources. If you live in a multi-cat household, it is a massive psychological mistake to assume your cats are best friends just because they live under the same roof. In the wild, cats are solitary hunters who fiercely defend their territories. When we force multiple cats to share a single food bowl, a single water fountain, or just one or two litter boxes, we are creating a silent, high-stakes war zone in our living rooms. Cats rarely fight openly unless they are pushed to the absolute brink. Instead, they use incredibly subtle bullying tactics that humans completely miss. A dominant cat might simply sit in a hallway, blocking the path to the litter box, or stare intensely at another cat trying to eat. This invisible bullying creates a state of non-stop, agonizing terror for the submissive cat, who feels constantly hunted and resource-starved within their own home. Feline psychologists stress that, to prevent this trauma, you must always provide one more resource than you have cats, spread out in completely different areas of the house, ensuring no single cat can monopolize them. Another critical mistake that deeply harms a cat's emotional health is the sudden and complete isolation of a cat when a new major life event occurs, such as the arrival of a new romantic partner, a roommate, or a baby. When an owner's attention abruptly shifts away from the cat, and the feline is suddenly locked out of the bedroom or pushed away from their usual resting spots, their brain experiences a severe distress response. Cats do not understand the concepts of human milestones or changing priorities. They only understand that their primary source of security and social bonding has suddenly vanished or rejected them. This abrupt loss of attention, combined with the stressful new sounds and smells of a baby or a stranger, can cause a cat to spiral into deep grief and anxiety. They may begin to express their distress through defensive aggression, vocalizing loudly at all hours of the night, or completely withdrawing into dark corners, refusing to eat or engage with the family. Finally, we must look at the psychological trauma caused by improper handling during veterinary visits or travel, and how we reinforce that fear at home. For the vast majority of cats, the sight of the cat carrier is an immediate trigger for absolute panic. This is because most owners only bring the carrier out when it is time to go to the vet, meaning the carrier has become a powerful psychological anchor for terror, pain, and disorientation. When we force a screaming, terrified cat into a box, jostle them around in a loud car, and expose them to the overwhelming sense of dogs and stressed animals at a clinic, we are subjecting them to a massive traumatic event. If we do nothing to desensitize them to this process, the trauma lingers long after they return home. Their brain remains hypervigilant, expecting another sudden capture, which can cause them to become fearful of any sudden movements or changes in their owner's behavior for days or even weeks afterward. Understanding these hidden psychological triggers is the first step toward transforming your home into a true sanctuary for your cat. By respecting their physical boundaries, protecting their incredibly sensitive senses, ensuring they have absolute control over their environment, and providing plenty of mental enrichment, you can heal the invisible wounds of chronic stress and build an unbreakable bond of mutual trust. If you want to dive even deeper into the secret language of your feline companion and discover exactly what they are trying to tell you through their most mysterious behaviors, make sure to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you noticed any of these subtle stress signs in your own cat, or discovered a unique way to make them feel safe? Let's start a conversation and help each other become the ultimate cat parents. And if you want to know what it really means when your cat performs that bizarre, late-night ritual, you absolutely cannot miss our next video, where we reveal the fascinating, hidden reasons behind why your cat stares at you at 3 a.m.